70 employees got out of the plant safely. About 200 work there. Officials say they want to stop the fire so that area residents can go back home. And if they didn't, this fire could last for 7 days. In Rockton, Illinois, Joni Lum, Fox 32 News.
Treated at hospitals, those surviving victims, 3 are male and 1 is female. There was a very young child, 2-year-old, inside this residence that was unharmed, but is being looked at just for observation purposes. What we know now, and it's very preliminary, is that there was a witness who heard gunshots early in the morning around 2 a.m. Shot spotter alert went off during that time in that area. And then the witness stated that they heard another series of gunshots around 5:30, 5:45 in the morning. This witness did not provide any additional information at this point. All we know about this residence is there's been several calls there for disturbances. Overall, the block where this residence is located is fairly quiet. Not much activity going on that requires a police response. And with that, we'll take any questions. But again, I just want to emphasize this information is very preliminary. The victims are being treated at the hospital, so we haven't been able to take statements from them to get additional information. So as the day transpires and we're able to interview victims and canvass the neighborhood for more information, we'll likely develop more about what happened here at this residence. Hang on, let's do this. We're gonna go in some kind of order. I'm gonna go left to right. I'll make sure everyone gets a question in and likely at least a single follow-up, okay? So I'm gonna go left to right. Just hang on just a second.
And identify yourself.
Yeah, what network you're with, what media outlet you're with. Yes, you have a question?
Yes, so Octavia from Block of Chicago. You spoke a bit on there being no reason as to why this happened, but is there anything that you suspect? Did the witness state anything that might have happened, anything they might have heard that led to this?
No, we don't have any additional information other than what I've described. Hopefully later today, as we are able to interview victims who are being treated, we'll develop more of what happened. But that's all we have is what I said earlier. Yes?
Have you found any guns, any suspects, anything along those lines?
We don't have any suspects currently. We have a drum magazine, which is a large capacity magazine for a gun, not a gun. Several casings inside the house. No apparent forced entry inside the house at this point. Any other questions? Yes.
Christian Farm, UC5. In terms of any video, is there anything in the area that you guys are searching for in terms of detectives, and how old is the child?
Well, as I mentioned, the child's 2 years old. We don't have, at this point, video collection, but that's something that we are in the process of developing. Yes.
Okay, I have 2 questions. One, I know it's preliminary, but we have some information that the people that were killed they were shot in the back of the head execution style.
We're not able to confirm that at this point.
The second is on.
Hang on just a second. We want to get through one round and then we'll come back, okay? All right. Any questions in the middle area here?
Do you have any idea of the relationship between these individuals that were shot, those who were wounded?
What we know now is likely one of the victims resides at this residence. Others, we haven't yet confirmed whether they reside at the residence or not. Any other questions here? Any questions here?
Yeah, so you said there were a witness that there was gunshots at 2 a.m. and the shots fired went off at 2 a.m. So did officers go to the residence at 2 a.m. and what did they find at that point?
So right now, we don't know that. So the shot spotter, again, let me go back. Shot spotter didn't alert inside the house. It alerted outside the house. That would have likely had a call, a 911 call, just a shot spotter alert. We don't have a 911 call record at this point, but we're, again, early in the investigation. We'll be looking at the early 911 shot, spotter alert, and the call, what happened, and then the later call, which we responded to and found the victims on exactly the kind of the TikTok, the timeline of what happened then.
Okay, so there was
Let's follow the instructions that we gave. We'll get you a second round, okay? We'll definitely get you. We'll come back from this side and get the second question. Yes.
Well, now I have new questions. So.
I didn't hear you. You said what?
I said, now I have new questions. Leah Hope, ABC 7. You mentioned that one of the victims resided at the residence. Can you please clarify what someone else had asked? Which one of the victims that's hospitalized lived at the address?
So we don't right now know that at this point. I've said everything that we know. It's very preliminary, but as soon, because victims are being treated they're being operated on, we're not interviewing them until they get out and recover, and then we'll be able to interview and confirm a lot of what we suspect now.
Okay. So then my question was, you mentioned that this is kind of a quiet block. What can you or any of the command staff say about any interactions with that address or any of the individuals?
We've already answered that question, but I'll say it again. So there's been disturbance calls at that particular location. But overall, the block has been quiet. No police activity that really describes what's happened overnight. So there's no shootings. There's no, other types of disturbance at different locations.
What do you mean by disturbance?
So you've got to listen to us and follow the instructions. We'll try to get a third round, but you asked two questions, and we'll come back through. Did you have a question here in the front again? You had a follow up. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll get to you.
Jesse, the area with Univision Chicago.
Yes.
We saw a lot of people who live in that block outside, extremely concerned. Should they be on the lookout or concerned about any retaliation?
We're always concerned with street justice. Retaliation, revenge drives a lot of violence in Chicago. At this point, we do provide extra patrols just because of that reality. We can reassure the public that there will be an increased police presence in this area until we're able to identify offenders if possible, or what exactly happened inside. Right now, we just don't know enough because all of the witnesses that were inside the house that were victims are being treated at the hospital. They're actually trying to recover from their wounds. And then once they get to that point, we'll be able to interview them and get more information from them. And again, ma'am, you had another question.
Okay, so I'm just trying to clarify about, so there was a shot spotter alert at 2 a.m., correct? And then there was also a shot spotter alert at the date limit. So did officers arrive to the shot spotter alert at 2 a.m.? Did they find anything?
We answer that. So we have yet to confirm what happened on the 2 a.m. call.
Okay, but
Shot spotter.
officers responded to it.
Yes.
Okay. And then do you have ages of the homicide victim?
No, we don't. No, we don't. And I think you had a question.
A couple of things here.
Yeah.
What does the finding of the magazine and the drum tell you about the weapons that was used? And as far as the guns that are out there on the street and whether or not.
So a drum magazine is a high capacity magazine for a weapon. It provides more bullets into a gun, which means it's able to do more harm to people. What that tells us about the larger discussion about illegal guns is there's way too many guns in the wrong hands in this city and across this country. And any thoughts that illegal gun possession doesn't drive violence is ridiculous. It's just hard to fathom that the risk our officers take in removing illegal guns. And let me just recount. We're at 5,200 guns recovered in the city of Chicago in 2021. More than Los Angeles and New York City recovers combined. And so the consequences on the back end of illegal gun possession is where we need the largest amount of help from our court systems and our prosecution.
The state's attorney's office though says that it's a nonviolent crime, is basically having a gun because you don't know if the person's going to use it, and that the numbers for police arrests for people with violent gun crimes is down.
Again, illegally possession of a gun is illegal. And we started with illegally possessing a gun. And what we do know is most of, if not all, large percentage of the guns used in homicides drive violent crime, to include how I answered this question here about revenge, retaliation, and street justice. It's done by illegal guns. And it's ridiculous to think that we can decriminalize illegal possession of guns and be safer. We're less safe when people illegally possess guns. Every argument, because you have a gun in play, could lead to violent crime. Every time you're in traffic driving and someone honks their horn at you and people get upset to the point of road rage, it's because they have an illegal gun that road rage becomes a violent crime. Every domestic incident that happens with a gun in the house escalates the opportunity for violent crime in a domestic violence incident. So in every case, and this is case after case after case, where we have conflict and you put a gun in someone's hand, you increase, particularly an illegal gun, you increase the opportunity for violent crime. Obviously, common sense is not so common. We should all know that. Illegal gun possession makes us less safe, not more safe. And I would argue the idea of decriminalizing illegal gun possession is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my nearly 40 years in law enforcement, particularly during a time where our country is seeing the most increase in violent crime in decades. Why would anyone argue that illegal gun possession needs to be decriminalized? How can you sleep at night? I would ask those who argue that point to come to Englewood, come to this address on Morgan Street, and look these victims and their families in the eye and make the argument that illegal gun possession makes you safer, that it didn't cause our grief this morning, the pain of these families because their loved ones passed because of guns in this house leading to violent crime. You take guns out of this house, you don't have the scourge of violent crime on this incident. You take this large capacity drum magazine out of play, you have less violent crime because you have less capacity to put more bullets through the gun. Let's get real. Any other last questions? Last question. Last question. Go ahead.
So we got a second round. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, so then, are you inviting then State Attorney Kim Fox to come down here?
I'm inviting anyone who makes the argument that illegal gun possession makes us safer to come to Englewood this morning and look these victims and their families in the eye and say the same thing and make the case. Yes. No, you had enough. Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And you're the last question.
Sure. Is there any indication there were parties being held? Your neighbors were telling us that.
Yes.
Maybe
Yeah, there is indication that there was loud music, likely a party being held.
Okay. But
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm sorry.
Parties, do you know, like prior to this, have you had any prior calls?
Yes, that's part of the calls that we've gotten at this particular address. Thank you very much. I appreciate